Welcome back to Yehoshua's Daf Yomi Shiur, where the Daf continues until the revelation of Messiah, the son of David, may be soon and in our day. Today we'll be studying Tractate Chullin, page 58a, top of the page, with the words Shilcha Kama Asira. Shilcha Kama Asiro, Mikan Ve'elech, the first clutch of eggs that were in its body at the time it was rendered a treifa is prohibited for consumption, because these eggs are considered part of the bird and were therefore rendered treifa along with it. But as for any egg fertilized from this point forward, it is a case where both this and that cause, meaning that the treifa, a treifa female and a kosher male, as a rule, when permitted and prohibited causes operate together, the joint result is permitted. Rav Ashi raised an objection to a Meimar from a Mishnah in Eduyot 5:1, and I'll agree with regard to the egg of a treifa bird that it is prohibited for consumption because it grew in a state of prohibition. Evidently, even eggs created after the bird was rendered a treifa are prohibited. A Meimar said to him, there, the Mishnah is dealing with a bird that is heated by the earth, meaning that was not fertilized by a male. And the female treifa is therefore the sole source of the egg. Vilishani le b'shilcha kama im ken gadla gamra v'boile. The Gemara objects, and let a Meimar answer differently, that the Mishnah is dealing with the first clutch of eggs, which were part of the mother's body when it became a treifa. The Gemara responds, if this was so, why does the Mishnah state because it grew in a state of prohibition? The Mishnah should have stated because it was finished in a state of prohibition. Ela haditnan Vlad Treifo Rabbi Eliezer Oimer Lo Yikrav Legav Mizbeach Rabbi Yehoshua Oimer Yikrav B'Maiko Mivlegi B'Shenitrefa U'Lebesoif Ibro. Rabbi Eliezer Sovar Zev Ze Goyrem Asu, Rabbi Yehoshua Sovar Zev Ze Goyrem Muto. Yachi Adi Mapalgi Legavon Mipalgi Dehedyot. The Gemara objects, but if the offspring in the womb of an animal becomes a treifa along with it, then that which we learned in a bright is difficult. With regard to the offspring of a treifa, Rabbi Eliezer says that it shall not be sacrificed on the altar, and Rabbi Yehoshua says that it may be sacrificed. With regard to what case do they disagree? It must be with regard to a case where the mother animal was rendered a treifa and afterward became pregnant from a kosher male. And Rabbi Eliezer holds, in a case where this and that cause it is prohibited. And Rabbi Yehoshua holds, in a case where this and that cause it is permitted. But if so, rather than disputing whether it is permitted to sacrifice such offspring to the Most High, let them disagree concerning the more basic issue of whether the offspring is permitted to an ordinary person for consumption. The Gemara responds, the dispute addresses the question of whether it is permitted to sacrifice the animal as an offering or in order to convey to you the far-reaching nature of the lenient opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua that such an animal is permitted even as an offering to the Most High. The Defilu lehedjot nam yasu koyach tetero odifle. The Gemara challenges, well, let them disagree concerning whether the animal is permitted to an ordinary person in order to convey to you the far-reaching nature of the stringent opinion of Rabbi Eliezer that such an animal is prohibited even to an ordinary person. The Gemara responds, it is preferable for the time to emphasize the power of leniency. The Gemara concludes, since Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua disagree with regard to an offspring brought by two causes, it follows that when the Mishnah states, and they concede with regard to the egg of a treifa bird, that it is prohibited for consumption, this is referring to a bird that is heated by the earth and was not fertilized by a male, so that there is only one cause, the treifa, mother bird. The Gemara notes Rav Acha holds, and according to the opinion of Rav Acha bar Yaakov, who said at the end of the previous Amud that a treifa animal can be capable of giving birth, and similarly a treifa bird can be capable of laying eggs as well. And he therefore teaches the statement of a Meimar, as we have said, that any egg fertilized after the bird became a treifa is permitted. Ravina, Allah Savala, Kidrava Chabar Yaakov, Umasni Lord Meimar Bahai, Dishna Amr Meimar Hani Bo Yisavik Treifa, Deshichla, Kama, Meshahina Nahu, Ihadra Betana Shadyan, Vi'ila Asiran. But Ravina does not hold it according to the opinion of Acha bar Yaakov. Rather, he holds that a treifa cannot produce eggs or give birth, and he therefore teaches the statement of a Meimar in this formulation. A Meimar said that, with regard to these eggs of a bird concerning which it is uncertain whether it is a treifa, the halacha is as follows. We leave aside the first clutch of eggs. If the bird produces eggs again, the first eggs are permitted for consumption because the bird is certainly not a treifa. And if not, they are permitted because they were considered part of the bird when it was rendered a treifa. Kama imken gadla, gamra mi boile, tani gamra. Rav Ashi raised an objection to a Meimar from a Mishnah, Ediyot 5:1, and they concede with regard to the egg of a treifa bird that is prohibited for consumption because it grew in a state of prohibition. Evidently, a treifa bird can produce eggs. A Meimar said to him, the Mishnah there deals with the first clutch of eggs, which existed before the bird became a treifa. Rav Ashi asks, if so, why does the Mishnah state because it grew in a state of prohibition? The Mishnah should have stated because it was finished in a state of prohibition. A Meimar responded, teach an amended version of the Mishnah because it was finished in a state of prohibition. Ela, Haditnan, Vlad Treva, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Lo Yikrav Ligabi Mizbeach, Rabbi Yehoshua Omer, Yikrav, V'Maik Meflegi, Kesheibra, ולבסוף נטרפה, רבי אליעזר סבר, ובר ירח עמו הוא. רבי יהושע סבר, ובר לאו ירח עמו הוא. יהכי עד מפלגי לגבוה, מפלגו להדיוט. Rav Ashi asks, but if a treifa cannot become pregnant, that which we learned in the Braita is difficult. With regard to the offspring of a treifa, Rabbi Eliezer says that it shall not be sacrificed on the altar. And Rabbi Yehoshua says that it may be sacrificed. With regard to what case do they disagree? It must be with regard to a case where the mother animal became pregnant and only afterward was rendered a treifa. Rabbi Eliezer holds that a fetus is considered like the thigh of its mother and is rendered a treifa as part of its body. And Rabbi Yehoshua holds that a fetus is not considered like the thigh of its mother. The Gemara objects, but if so, rather than disputing whether it is permitted to sacrifice such an offspring to the Most High, let them dispute the more basic issue of whether the offspring is permitted to an ordinary person for consumption. Lehodiacha kocho de Yehoshua, v'yipalgu behediot lehodiacha kocho de Eliezer, koch teter olifle. The Gemara responds. The Mishnah discusses the question of whether it is permitted to sacrifice the animal as an offering, in order to convey to you the far-reaching nature of the lenient opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua that such an animal is permitted even as an offering to the Most High. Just looking at the word offering versus offspring, and they use both of them. I want to see if it was used correctly, but okay, we'll continue. The Mishnah discusses, in order to convey to you the far-reaching nature of lenient Rabbi Yehoshua, such an animal is permitted even as an offering to the Most High. The Gemara suggests to let them dispute whether the animal is permitted to an ordinary person in order to convey to you the far-reaching nature of the stringent opinion of Rabbi Eliezer that such an animal is prohibited even to an ordinary person. The Gemara responds, it is preferable for the Tana to emphasize the power of leniency. Umoidim v'adai bebeitzes treifa shasua b'deshichla kama ma'itama gufahi. The Gemara concludes, according to this explanation, when the Mishnah states, and they certainly concede with regard to the egg of a treifa bird that is prohibited for consumption, it is dealing with the first clutch of eggs in the bird's oviduct at the time becomes a treifa. Even Rabbi Yehoshua, who holds that the fetus of an animal is not considered like the thigh of its mother, concedes that a bird's egg is rendered a treifa along with it. What is the reason for this? Rabbi Yehoshua holds that an egg is a true part of its body. Kol shnai masel yoim chodesh v'nikebo kol she'eno yoledes. The Gemara rules, and with regard to an animal concerning which it is uncertain whether it is a treifa, the halacha is, in the case of a male, it is prohibited for an entire 12-month period. After that point, the animal is certainly kosher. In the case of a female, any animal that does not give birth is prohibited. Once it has, it is certainly kosher. Amar Rav Huna kol b'riyah she'ein bo etzem eno miskayim 12 chodesh. Amar Papa Shema mina mid Rav Huna had Amar Shmuel kishus Shetalia, or in brackets Hitlia, Be'ebea Asura. Rav Huna says, any creature that has no bones cannot last 12 months. Rav Papa said one may learn from Rav Huna's statement about that which Shmuel says, if a serpent melon became infested by worms. A serpent melon? I'm sure what that is, but okay. Let's say a serpent melon became infested by worms attached to the ground. The worm is prohibited for consumption in accordance with the verse, and every swarming thing that swarms upon the earth is a detestable thing and shall not be eaten. Leviticus 11:41. We'll stop here.